here. I'm waiting status bar, and it's probably streaming right now. Like say stupid stuff. I noticed that last time. But technically, I do have to wait until it gets there. Then I have to go back to Zoom, and we should be ready to go here. Okay, so I am here live, Dub Nation. This is Poor Man's Commish, your Warriors credentialed insider. And today, man, perfect timing because there's been so much talk about Andrew Wiggins. So we have Reid, and I'm not going to say his last name just yet because we're going to have a little bit of fun as we warm up the online crowd. His last name is spelled Ouse. So we're going to have a little contest in the chat room. Give me some time to get there. But whoever guesses how to pronounce his last name first wins. I don't know. Wins a shout out. This is what we do here on social media. And so Reid is here, and I'm gonna let Reid introduce himself and explain how he became a basketball trainer, and then how he became Andrew Wiggins' trainer. And during that time, you might see me fumble around a little bit because I'm gonna go and try and get the link and then tweet it out, all that stuff. And so you guys bear with me, but just listen to Reid for a minute. Go ahead, Reid, take it away.
Well, hey, thanks for having me on. I have a pretty unique story when it comes to basketball trainers. Obviously, basketball training over the last, 5 or 6 years to last decade is something that went from not really being a thing from a full-time standpoint to now there's a lot of people doing it. And so my story started growing up. My father was a head high school basketball coach. And so I spent about every day since third grade in the gym, kind of following his footsteps, learning from him. I started at the bottom as a manager, water boy, as a third grader, and then finally once I got into middle school, high school, got to play for my dad. But coaching was always something that was in my kind of my DNA, and so I had the opportunity to play college, had some, my body. I was a tweener. I was about a 6 foot, slow footed guy. Skill wise, I was okay. IQ, I was good, but I just didn't know where I fit. And so
So
actually
who was your comp? So we need like an
uh,
NBA comp.
so I don't know if I have an NBA comp, but one time in a meeting, um, at a coach, a players meeting, someone made a comment about Levance Fields, who used to play
Oh boy.
at Pittsburgh. Yeah, oh boy, right? And he said something about, oh, he's like 5'11", 230. And I made a joke in the back, like, what's wrong with 5'11", 230? I don't know. I was a guy that was a facilitator and a knockdown jump shooter, I would like to think.
Oh,
Um,
you need those. So you were the John Stockton of your community,
Yeah,
right?
I was a slow. Yeah, you could say that. But when I got into the college coaching, I spent 7 years doing that. I worked at 4 different colleges at the Division III level, NAI, Division II, and then ultimately moved from Minnesota, where I'm from. Chased my now wife, out to New York City, where she worked in reality TV. Started working alongside DJ Sackman. I think DJ's actually in
Oh
Miami
yeah.
working with like Tyler Hero right now,
Yeah.
with Andrew Moran. Those are a couple of my buddies. And so DJ and I worked
Cool.
side by side for 2.5 years. I worked with him and kind of fell into the training game. We worked with Damari Carroll and some guys like that. And I've been back in Minnesota now for about 4 years doing this full time. Met Andrew. It's pretty crazy. I was thinking about it earlier today. Work with Paige Beckers, who was the number one women's
Mm-hmm.
player in the world last year. She's at UConn. She's like the most number one
Cool.
recruit. USA
Yeah.
Basketball Women's Athlete of the Year. Started working with her, and I got hit up randomly by her. It was like, hey, I have a friend. She played on the Under Armour circuit. I got a friend who's coming to town. He has a son. He runs an Under Armour, affiliated team in West Virginia. Makai Johnson. He's like a top 40 sophomore in the country right now. So we started
Yeah, I
talking about.
see where
All of a
you're
sudden, I
going
find
with
out, well,
this. Yeah.
Makai's sister
Mm-hmm.
is Andrew's longtime girlfriend. They have their daughter Amaya. The second one's on the way, and so I got to know Scott, who's Mike's dad, and so we got it's kind of that. And then just, Drew was back in Minnesota summer, just with the pandemic and everything. And obviously being in San Francisco, there's talks of, what's Golden State going to do with the pick? You have all these rumors. I mean, pretty certain that he was going to be in Golden State, but it's the NBA's a business. And so he's like, you know what, with the pandemic, I don't want to jump the gun and sell my house and buy a house and whatever. So his family, his mom and dad and siblings live in Minneapolis. And so he was back here most of the summer, and we were able to connect that way.
Fantastic. And yeah, it's crazy. You probably have some intel on James Wiseman because he is with those guys in Miami, right? Andrew Moran.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Drew very much, or I haven't talked to Drew actually in a long time. But what I do know is Andrew Moran's phenomenal at what he does. And Miami's always been one of those spots. You have New York, Miami, and LA, and it becomes a hot spot for these guys that do a really good job. Like Stanley Remy's been down there and does a really good job with guys, and that was kind of his spot. But then people are like, hey, Drew is really, really good too. And so now you start seeing he's got Wiseman and Tyler Hero, and he's had Tim Hardaway Jr. and all those guys. And so what I do know is that James Wiseman's going to be a much more dynamic player because he's really good with footwork. From a skill standpoint, you're going to be able to see James put the ball on the floor a little bit more and do some of those things. Obviously, that's been shared, immensely on social media. But I think Andrew Moran's one of the best on the planet, and I'm really excited to see what he's been able to do with James.
Fantastic. All right, I just got into our chat, and I don't know if I'm looking at everything here. Live chat. Sorry, guys. But hey, guys, in the chat room, we have this little contest going, is how to pronounce Reid's last name. It's spelled O-U-S-E. And so just give us some guesses, and we'll see who wins. And, maybe I'll find a Dub Nation towel that I got at Chase Center or Oracle and send that out to one of you guys. But we can have a little fun out there in the chat. But okay. So what I want to do now is just kind of address the elephant in the room, at least for the past week. And I know that this is more of a strength training issue than it is for basketball training, but Andrew Wiggins, the Warriors posted a photo of him. He was jacked. And so what do you know? Did you notice that he had sort of bulked up like that? And when you talk, I'm going to see if I can share the photo with everybody. But did you notice anything about that? And was that, I guess, a point of emphasis as part of your training as well?
Yeah. So for me personally, we just stuck to the basketball, and Andrew has his guys, and I know one of the things with quarantine happening and in the lockdown, like right now, numbers are really bad in Minnesota, and they were for a while, and we had to have everything shut down. Andrew, at his house, was able to really invest a lot of time in the weight room, right? Whether that's, body weight stuff and, lift, whatever he was doing. I know that just because of the situation, I mean, there was not a lot to do. I mean, the entire state was shut down. I was here the entire time. And so it's like, hey, what are you doing? Well, I got to get a good workout in. And so instead of being able, maybe your workout goes from getting to the gym and getting up, 500 to 1,000 shots. There was a period of time where you just couldn't do that. And so in order to stay in shape, you got to invest in the weight room. And I think Andrew definitely did that, because I saw the picture too. He would work out sometimes sleeveless, but a lot of times these guys come in, they got baggy t-shirts on and things like that. So you don't necessarily get to see the change in their body. But I know just, they're working out, doing some things mid-post stuff where, I'm just giving him a look so he can feel some contact. There was a couple times where he's definitely getting me in. I'm 5'11", 6 feet, 225 pounds. I can take a hit and he'd hit me in the sternum where it's like, holy smokes, you just about knocked me flat on my butt. So I think from a strength standpoint, there was definitely, he invested in that.
Cool. Yeah. Steve Kerr even mentioned that during the mini camp. And, it's funny when people criticize Wiggins, like, I don't want to say criticize, but when we post his workout video, which includes some of your clips, include some
Mhm.
of Chris Johnson's clips in LA,
Mhm.
people will go, oh, he's so skinny, he needs to bulk up and all this. And I'm thinking, Steve Kerr knows this. He's a wiry guy. He's just
Yeah.
wiry. That's the way to. And then you know what comes to mind. You know who comes to mind. I'll throw it out there for you. So this guy played for Golden State, and he also played for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and has the same body type as Andrew Wiggins. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Are you talking Joe Smith?
No, no, I'm talking about a two guard that
A
was
two.
first team All NBA with the Warriors.
Oh, Latrell?
Latrell, yeah, it just
Latrell Sprewell.
totally
Yep.
reminds me of Latrell, right?
Yep.
I got a little story of Latrell. So that time when he choked PJ Carlissimo and then he was suspended, he spent the whole time across the street from the Oakland facility at Club One. And I had a membership at Club One. So lots of times it would just be like me and him in the weight room, like, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Dude was, I mean, that's the definition of wiry. Like he's doing
Yeah.
these squats, like that weight doesn't match your body type. And
Yeah.
it was just insane. So I got to see that like up close, but these guys are just freaks of nature. And
Mhm.
can you tell us how a guy like shaped like that is still so strong? How's that even possible?
Well, I think when it comes to sport and just sport in general, like there's you have brute strength and then you have basketball strength. Like there are certain things that translate. And I know that sounds like you talk skills that translate versus like athleticism. Like if you look at a guy like Luka Doncic, like he's a guy who's probably the opposite body type of someone like Wiggins. And when I talk about people, I said Luka Doncic, I would argue on paper is, and I think he's a solid athlete. I think Luka Doncic is almost never more athletic than the guy guarding him. And yet Luka Doncic at a young age is scoring about 30 in the best league on the planet because there are certain things he's able to, and it's not that he's just catch and shoot, like he's getting to the rim. He's doing some of those things. So you might not think of Luka Doncic as quick, but he has a solid first step, which allows
Right.
him to do some of those things. You don't have to be Russell Westbrook or John Wall with that pop in order to be able to do some of those things. And Andrew Wiggins does not have to be, he can post up and he does not have to be built like Draymond. He can be
Mhm.
this wiry strong where he doesn't need this long, like, I'm going to bully ball you. It's like pop, and then I'm going to separate because he's the type of guy that wants to get to his fadeaway. So he's not going to bully you. He's more of just like a pop, and now we say engage to disengage, right? If you engage that guy, they have to absorb that. Well, he's so athletic enough that he's so athletic that he can just get to his spots, and he doesn't necessarily have to be that. The in terms of like, hey, we're gonna bench press 300 pounds 10 times. One of the things he was working out this summer with me and a guy named Kerwin Walton. Kerwin's a highly rated
Mhm.
recruit at North Carolina. And so we were doing some mid post stuff, and we laughed because we thought it was funny at the time, but it's super true, and that's how Andrew plays. So Andrew, can you give Kerwin some advice on, when you got to the league, you took that next step? What are some things that you struggled with, maybe that you learned about getting to, your shots? And he looked and he goes, just get to your spots. And if you don't have space, then fade. And we chuckled because he said it so nonchalant, but then he's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm serious. Like he's athletic enough. If Andrew
Right.
Wiggins gets to his spot, like when KD, like when like guy like Durant, like
Yeah.
Durant is big enough that if he gets to his spot and he's like, I'm just gonna jump and I'm gonna shoot over the
Yeah.
top of you, there's not much that you can do. And Wiggins has a little bit of that where he can just
Right.
a lot of that where he can just get to his spots. He might bump you, raise up and shoot it. And
Yeah.
if he needs to, he's comfortable fading. So you don't have to be this brute strength guy. It's just a quick pop, separate, and now you're good.
That's cool. That's so cool. And I think the fact that he can post up like that is going to throw a lot of defenders off because you just don't find. I mean, like, so
Yeah.
there's KD, right? he throws you off
Yep.
because of the wiriness again. So anyways, let's move ahead to the next sort of I guess there was that sort of elephant in the room and the other elephants in the room, which as a guy that is on social media all the time talking Warriors, we see a lot of the negative parts. So this is our opportunity to kind of address the critics in the room. And so I think he addressed the the lifting weights issue. So why hasn't he done that in the last 7 years? Well, there hasn't been a pandemic the last 7 years where he can just like focus on gaining muscle,
Yeah.
right? Anything else to add to that? I mean, that's pretty cut and straightforward to me.
Yeah. I think from a personality standpoint, like
Hmm.
he's locked in, he's engaged. He's not like you I use this as an example for something else the other day. Like if someone walks into a room with me, I'm going to be energetic and hey, what's going on, right? And try to make you feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable. Well, you might see this
Mm-hmm.
other kid, one of my clients, a high school kid. Well, you come into the room with him and he might stand there and just look at you and you went, wow, this guy's a jerk. Well, he's not a jerk. He's just a processor. He's processing what's going
Mm-hmm.
on. And so you had guys like in Minnesota that had like some more dynamic personalities that were outgoing, like a Carl Anthony Towns who wants to, he's okay talking, and Andrew's just like, I'm gonna do my thing. He's a very simple human being. Like it's pretty. It's actually admirable. We had great conversations about that. That he's just like, dude, if I have basketball, if he loves his dogs, he loves his girlfriend, he
Hmm.
loves his daughter, and he's like, dude, quarantine for him was he
Yeah.
enjoyed it because he's
Yeah.
like, dude, I'm so simple. People
Yeah.
expect you when you're the number one pick to come in and be this alpha male and be like, this is my
Right.
team. And he's
Right.
like, and he has never been that. And he is
Yeah.
outspoken. It's like, dude, I will be here. I will do everything that I can to help this team win. I'm willing to do whatever. But if you think that at 25 or however old he is now, 20, that he's gonna come and just flip a switch, like I mean, it would be the equivalent to this would be like expecting Draymond to show up to training camp and never talk smack on the floor. You'd be like, that's crazy.
Gotcha.
That's not Draymond.
That's
Yet
a great example.
the
Yeah.
exact same thing with Wiggins. You're like, how is he not this alpha male? It's like it's
Right.
not basketball related.
That's
It's just
so
who he
interesting.
is as a person. So that's what I think
Sorry.
is.
Yeah.
Nope, you're good. That's what I
I got
think
a
is.
phone call just now. Cool. That's
Yeah,
I love
I
that comp. And you mentioned nonchalant. Guess who brought that up today? Marquise Chris literally
mhm,
used those words to say that he gets knocked on his work ethic because he's just so nonchalant. And they always talk
uh-huh.
about the Warriors always talk about how Wiggins is the type of guy who could fall out of bed and score 20.
Yeah.
They
No,
love that part.
no, I think it's
Um,
what's funny about that too is you could see him like playing, one on one. We didn't do that, but you this summer. But he's the type of guy like, man, he's so nonchalant. I can't stand it. And you're like, he's got 28. Like,
yeah,
like he makes everything look effortless. There's guys in the league
right,
that'll score
right,
14 and they make every single movement look hard.
right,
Andrew Wiggins
right.
makes everything look like he's going half speed and he's kicking your butt.
It's so awesome to talk about because you mentioned how he has his family. He's got the daughter, got another one on the way, and the pandemic's been great for his family time.
Yeah.
You know who you just described? You just described Steph and Klay.
Uh-huh.
Like Clay's
Yeah.
got his dog, Andrew's got his dog. It's almost like this is sort of a match made in heaven. Like,
Hmm.
why didn't this happen earlier? And
Yeah.
maybe we should actually jump ahead to that. There's other elephants in the room in terms of like maybe just one other one like we can talk about later. That's again related to why didn't he do this during the other 7 years? We'll get to that, but can you kind of give us an idea of what this offense will look like? Because I mean, you're a basketball trainer, so guys, how guys run the routes. Can you talk about that a little bit too? What you think? Because now that Klay's out, I asked this
Mhm.
question today of Kelly Oubre. Are
Yeah.
you guys in like Kelly? Are you going to run Klay's routes, or is Wiggins going to run his routes, or what's going on? And he said that we're not worried about that just quite yet, but the system that Kerr does have set up allows us to like be positionless. So
Yeah.
I know you know that already. So can you explain, kind of give us a picture of what this will look like? Because we got to wait another week before we see preseason, and even then they're only
Yeah.
going to play a few minutes together. So we're excited here. So we paint the picture for us.
Well, I can say this. We had conversations this summer when he was back, and and very, like I didn't push the topic. We just have conversation. And when I talk about being nonchalant, he's typically like really laid back. When I talked about this roster, he got so excited. He's just like
Love it.
he's like, man, are you kidding? Look at the matchups. At one point, he's like,
Yeah.
dude, there are going to be a lot of nights where I'm going to get probably the third best perimeter defender. Steph's
Right.
going to draw somebody. Now, obviously, it's different with the Klay injury, but you see some of these teams when they're like, hey, we're going to have this super team. We're going to do this. Is there going to be a problem with touches? I don't see that with Andrew. You have some of these guys that come in and in Andrew's situation where a guy would be like, no, I'm going to make this my team. Andrew's not like that. That's not his personality. And so he's the type of guy that if they'll allow him to play his, a little bit of, get some touches where I know that you guys like to shoot the ball from three and get out and run. He likes to do that,
Yeah.
but he's really good in the mid post. And so if he can get some touches there, you understand he just left Minnesota where Rosas is coming. They got like the Houston mindset where they want to go threes and layups. And so that's not really his game, but he's played in that type of a system where he's willing to shoot the ball. And I was looking up his stats. I mean, you look at 33% and you're like, well, that's not the greatest, but 33% when you talk analytics is not terrible. So he's a capable 3-point shooter. They're going to be teams have to guard him out there. And in a long closeout situation, you can see he's really dynamic off the bounce. And to be honest, I think he actually punched on the Warriors a couple times pretty
Yeah.
badly when he was a Timberwolf. So
Yeah.
he has the ability
Right.
to attack those closeouts. If they can, and you look at Oubre too, left-handed, super athletic. There's some things that you can really do with this roster. I love Wiseman. I'm a big fan of Marquise Chris just because of that, like, just a run to the rim and throw it at the top of the square. They had a ton of success back with like JaVale McGee and guys like that. There's I like the makeup of this team. Obviously, I like it a lot more with Klay Thompson in there, but I really think that they're going to be able to make some adjustments that fit. There's not very many guys in the league like Andrew Wiggins that can play the spots and score from those spots. And most of the time, the guys that can do that are your number one scorer. And he's not your number one scorer in this situation, which is going to provide even more mismatches that guys like Coach Kerr are going to be able to take advantage of.
Great, great, love it. And today, Marquise Chris, when he was talking, or was it? It was yesterday. One thing I just noticed about him is he's just such a great dude. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot you can see sort of the Warriors culture,
Yeah.
sort of emanating, and Andrew seems to fit that pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do they call them on the court? Do you go Wiggs or Drew, or
Yeah.
what's the nickname?
It's crazy because I found myself calling him Wiggs, and then it was like
Hmm.
I don't know if that's what he goes by, but yeah, Wiggs. I mean, definitely not Andy. I've never heard anybody call him Andy's.
Yeah, that's kind
No,
of
I think
that might be the equivalent of never call Andre Iguodala Iggy, because
yeah,
just doesn't resonate with him.
yes,
I see in the comments you got Gene McIntyre. He's an NBA trainer out in Houston, so you guys should link up sometime, and
yeah.
whatever. He's seen a lot of the Rockets, obviously. So
Mhm.
So it's just interesting how, you're out there in Minnesota, you get to see the Timberwolves a lot. You want to talk a little bit about sort of your, connection out there and with the team as well?
Yeah. So the guy that I'm connected to the most is Jake Layman,
Mm,
who, came over from Portland, and Jake has become a really good friend of mine. He's also, my wife and I are expecting twins in, middle of March. Jake's expecting his first. He's got a boy in January coming, which we actually Wiggins like, hey man, can you come back if you're having a boy and Layman's having a boy and I'm having twins? We're gonna have this great youth basketball. Cole Aldrich just had a boy. Like, this is gonna be
yeah,
awesome. But no, I'm connected with Jake Layman. When he signed, came from Portland. I think he moved here on a Thursday. Friday morning we were in the gym, and so we spent probably 60 hours in the gym this summer. And Juancho Hernan-Gomez would come over a little bit and just get connected with that coaching staff a little bit more, so they're G League guys. And just kind of being a Minnesota native, I lived in New York City, have come back, and it's just really cool to be connected that way. I work with a lot of the top high school, top college players that come back in the summer and would be running. I had these invite only runs. We didn't do it this summer, but similar to how those guys, Chris Johnson and Rico Hines and all these guys are running
yeah,
their stuff out in California. No one, you don't think anybody comes to Minneapolis right in the summer, but we had
right,
we have Cole Aldrich and John Lure and Tyus Jones and Jake Layman, but then you also have we have Brad Davison's playing against for Wisconsin. They're number 4 ranked team in the country right now, or McKinley Wright at Colorado, and you have all these. Minnesota's just become this hotbed for talent. So really got connected that way, and just plugging stuff. I'm just one of those guys. I'm like, hey, this is year 14 of doing this, so kind of been around a while.
cool, yeah. All right, so let's just slay all these elephants in the room just finally. So when people say they see the workout videos of Wiggins, then they go, okay, why didn't he do that in year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
Yeah.
Okay, so why didn't he do that
Well, no,
in year 1? Right.
that
So just go ahead and let's slay this beast.
Yeah, no, and to be honest, I haven't spent much time with Andrew outside. I haven't spent. This was the first summer that we connected, and so I
Mhm.
actually
Okay.
never worked with Andrew during his
Oh, okay.
time, with the Timberwolves. But I think it was just funny that here I'm in Minnesota and the guy gets traded out to California, and then I
Yeah.
work with him when but
Right.
talking to I call Scott his father-in-law, but talking to Scott about him, like the type of guy that has a good work ethic. He's not he just it's his personality, right? He's
Yeah.
not gonna go be the guy that's, hey, go film this of me and then
Right.
put it out there like some of these other guys are. Like, you could have a guy that goes and spends 100 hours a week in the gym and doesn't post it, and a guy who spends
Right.
35 minutes and posts 8 videos, and you think the guy who spent 35 minutes has been in there more. I'd ask, we'd talk to Andrew about social media stuff, because we'd have different guys in the gym filming other things, and said, hey, are you okay with this? And he'd smile and be like, as long as you make me look good. Like, he's
Right.
literally so laid back. He's more than willing. Like, he's one of the biggest hearts of anybody I met. Like, my little brother, my
Yeah.
15-year-old brother's here this summer. He engages with him. I have a kid that's 10 years old that I mentor who lost his father to a heart attack. And Andrew's like taking pictures with him in the parking lot during a snowstorm, like when it snowed earlier this fall, like all those types of things. And it's just like Andrew gets his work in, he gets in, he gets out, he
Yeah.
doesn't talk about it. And I think people
Right.
want, like, fans are like, you're our number 1 pick, you're dynamic, we want
Right.
to know what you're doing. And he's like, when I asked him, like, what do you like? I said, you're a simple man. He's got the Andrew Wiggins, a phenomenal smile. And he just smiles and he's like, very simple. I'm like, what do you like? Like, outside of basketball and your girls, what do you like? And he looked at me and smiled and was like, dogs. And I was like, is there a question
There
mark
you
at the end of
go.
it? And he's like, dude, I'm so simple. And so it's
Right.
not that he hasn't, dude, like, the guy is Like you look up his
Yeah,
stats and
I
it's
get
like,
it. Yeah.
okay, 20, 24, like he's putting in the work. He's
Yeah,
just not going to walk out and say, look at me. This is what I'm doing.
exactly. I think we've discovered something here that the number one pick in the NBA has an expectation from fans, from franchises, from owners to be the, just fill in the blank with the number one pick, right? King
Mm-hmm.
James, whole litany of number one picks that, just even what was Kevin Garnett number one? Sort of
No, yeah, but
well, just sort of this like you said, like alpha male, just this huge personality type
mhm,
thing. And when a guy just kind of does what he does, I think it almost is more amazing that I mean, you could always look at glasses half full, half empty. So the
yeah,
glass half full way of looking at this is that it's it's even more amazing to me that a guy this low key was able to produce the way he produced at Kansas,
yep,
and then sort of, okay, well, in this draft class you are the best. And for a guy that simple to be the best player in the
mhm,
country, as in college, you just don't see that a whole lot. Where it isn't, yeah, like, the NBA glamorous, famous celebrity type
mhm,
of usual track that you see. So I think maybe that's kind of worked against him. And it's just one of those things you can't, you can't even, it's not scientific. You can't write a book about it. There's no equations,
yep,
and then he winds up in Minnesota of all places.
yeah,
So I think you just got to take it for what it is and just look behind the scenes, which is
mhm,
check this out. This guy is like, we could have a contest and literally we would not know who is a more simpler guy, Andrew Wiggins or Klay Thompson, right?
mhm, yeah,
That's the major revelation I just got in this.
yep,
If this was the only takeaway today, that's an amazing thing that nobody in the NBA knows. I
yeah,
bet you Klay Thompson doesn't even know that. So I just think that it's amazing. And it's so tragic that they can't be together this year,
well, oh,
because it would have been fun. Would have been really
well,
fun.
you know what I find is super interesting? So being in Minnesota, the Wolves had the number one pick, and they take Edwards out of Georgia. And the
Hmm.
day of
Yeah.
the draft or whatever, that thing comes out where he basically says, like, I love football. I got really good at basketball. If
Oh
I could
yeah,
play in
I
the
remember that.
NFL, if I could play in the NFL, I'd be okay with it. And everyone was
Yeah.
like, first of all, you're kind of like, oh, like not today. But everyone's like, how could he say that?
Yeah.
And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, no, no, no. This is fascinating. So this is who he is. You want to know who he is. In
Right.
order for you to get the most out of him, you have to know how he's hardwired. And so the
Yeah.
Timberwolves are probably going, hey, we're going to take this guy. He says this. Okay, that's how he's hardwired. Now we have an opportunity to do this, because we understand it. Like when I would talk to Wiggins about the Timberwolves system, he doesn't ever throw anybody under the bus.
Yeah.
Like he's just very like nonchalant.
Yeah.
And so I would say things like, so how many, if you had mid post shots, like 20, and if you had 20 shots in a game, how many do you want here? And he's like, well, I'll do whatever is needed. But if we were playing pickup, 16, right? Because he loves the mid post. Hold up.
Love it. Yeah.
So you have Rosas who wants you to shoot threes. So you want to shoot mid range. He gives you a max deal and then tries to make you something that you're not. And then the fans are like, well, who is this guy? And it's like, you already know who he is. Like, you could go back with the Draymond analogy, like, oh, Clay's out this year,
Yeah.
so we're gonna try to make Draymond be Clay. You'd be like, that's not gonna work. But that's in a sense is what some of those what the teams try to do, and the fans don't understand it. And Andrew's just like, can I just try to help my team win?
Right. Cool, man. I just love, kind of peeling the onion here
Mm-hmm.
and seeing what guys are all about. So I really appreciate this.
Yeah.
And we're past the 30-minute mark. And Just looking. Hey guys, in the comments, go ahead and ask some questions. We're gonna open it up eventually. But how can we help you here? You've got, you know, training and camps. Go ahead and let everybody know how to hook up with you if they happen to be in the Minnesota area.
Yeah, so my company is Catalyst Training, and so you got a variety of ways. My name Reid. I won't say my last name. You can type in
Yeah, we
my
didn't
full
get any
name to get.
guesses yet. So I'm still learning how to do these Zooms with the YouTube live. So we
Yeah,
may just have to give it away.
you type in my name or basketballcatalyst.com, catalystbasketball.com as well. Right now, what's actually really cool is obviously there's a lot of negativity and a lot of terrible stuff going on with COVID. But what it's done is I've transformed a room in my basement into a ball handling lab. And I'm doing
Wow.
Zoom workouts. And I know we talked about it before we came
Yeah.
on, but I think by the end of the week we'll have about 2,000 kids, or by the end of next week have 2,000 kids. It's been incredible. And so on Zoom workouts, it's like, oh, that kid, it's like, okay, it's cold here, and that kid's outside in a tank top, so he's somewhere warm, and that kid's
Yeah.
there's snow on the ground through the window in the background. So I got Zoom workouts going left and right. All that stuff's on the website. Coach OUSE, looks like house without the H. That's my Instagram. Twitter is Reid Reid
Yeah.
OUSE as well. So yeah,
I
connect with
think
me
I
that
think
way.
we can give away the pronunciation. So I'll just
Yeah.
let you
So
go ahead and tell them how it's pronounced.
yeah, it's OC, like Orange County. Reid OC. It looks like ooze. I think I've had 2 people in 31 years get it correct.
Yeah, we were talking about that where that reminds me of um like the Warriors during the Cohan era. My buddy, Derek Mooney. Derek, if you're out there, man, holler. But he goes out there, half court. I'm sitting, I didn't even know he was there. I'm on the other side of the arena. I'm like, oh my goodness, Derek's out there. He's gonna make this. He's gonna make it because he was a baller in our little rec leagues and
Yeah.
stuff. Sure enough, goes half court, boom, he makes it. Like I'm like the only not surprised guy in the whole arena. And the funny thing is about it is he never got paid. So it's like that was Cohen for you, cheapskate. But
That's
nowadays
hilarious.
when they do that nowadays, it's all through an insurance company and all
Oh
that. So
yeah.
it's like you should hook up with those people and give a little prize to whoever can, guess your name out in the blue there.
Oh,
But I'm gonna look through these comments. If you guys have questions, go ahead and throw them out there. Okay, so stat prediction, man, I'm just not the stat guy. I'm the eye test guy, like a lot of basketball trainers. So I just enjoy the game. I couldn't care less how many points they actually scored. Let's just win. But we have so one question about stats and what do you predict for stats? Don't worry about it, man. Not this year, especially with Klay out. All the numbers out the window. What does Wiggins need to be successful with the Warriors? Pretty generic question, but yeah, go ahead with that one.
no, I think that's a great question. I think he's gonna fit in well with the guys around him. He's the type of guy that I think if he feels comfortable, which obviously it sounds like he does. Obviously, the Warriors have a great culture. I think athletically, skill wise, he's good. He's gonna fit in just fine. I think their big is going to be kind of determining roles. I mean, I think everybody's role, well, when they were, a couple years ago, you have Klay, you have Steph, you had Durant kind of in that playmaker role, but then you have Draymond, and whether guys like Bogut or Pachulia or everyone's role was established. And now coming off of
Yeah.
last year, you're like, what are these roles? And so they can get their roles established and get guys comfortable. I think he's gonna be dynamic from day one.
All right. Great stuff. How about his defense. This guy's asking about, can he be all NBA defense?
Well, I think that's one of those things that it's going to be interesting to find out because play out. I mean, obviously, Oubre is changes the dynamic of the team, but that was kind of one of the things. Okay, not necessarily if Klay's back a 3-and-D guy because he's more dynamic than that, but like, can he be that guy that can give Klay a break as being that number one defensive stopper? I mean, I definitely think he has the intangibles. I think he's a smart basketball player. He's incredibly long, can alter shots, and I think that that's a role he could settle into nicely because I don't think he feels like this pressure, like I have to go out and score 25 a night.
Yeah. All right. And they asked how long you've been training Wiggins, which you answered earlier, but go ahead with that one.
Yeah, just just this summer when he was back. He obviously spends a lot of time out in California with Chris Johnson, and Chris does a phenomenal job. And so I was the guy that would supplement that when he was back in Minnesota.
Is he gonna go back to Minnesota during off season, or do you know at all?
Not sure. I mean, I think he definitely prefers the West Coast, the nicer weather. I
Yeah,
know he was back.
yeah,
We got like a crazy early snow, and he came back in a
yeah.
jacket. And he's like, "Yo, I'm out of here, man." But his family's here, and so I think
Oh, okay.
I talked to his dad. Like his dad, Mitchell, like is the mayor, like
Yeah,
not the literal mayor, but just knows everybody. Everybody
yeah.
loves Big Mitch, and he's like, we moved here when Andrew was 19 years old. He got drafted number 1, and he's a grown man now, and he's ready to go. And my wife loves it here, and we've made this our home. And so I think his
Cool.
parents, his parents will probably stay here, and he'll always have some connection back to Minnesota, obviously, as long as they're here.
And you will be the guy when he needs to go do that workout when he visits his parents.
I hope
Yeah.
so.
All right. Is Wiggins friends with Oubre? I can say that I don't know offhand, but today Oubre in the Q&A, the official media week Zoom, Oubre said the wreak havoc quote, said he can't wait to wreak havoc with Wiggins.
Yeah.
So specifically pointed him out. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Do you see any questions that I may have skipped over here? Do you see Wiggins play sort of better Harrison Barnes? Well, you can answer that in a minute, but as far as, harking back to 2016 and 2015, I don't know. It's just hard to make these comparisons. Every team's different. So, I mean, yeah, you could sort of think of it that way, but and with Klay out, it's everything's changed. So let's just move forward and kind of look ahead, and we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. There's so many variables, right? From COVID and scheduling to like who's there and who's healthy and
Oh yeah,
I just still don't, not to go not to do the dreaded COVID, but I just think that there's so many things. This is a team that Steph can go for 50 any night, but you also have Wiggins and Oubre and those, like, and Draymond can give you 25. I mean, this is one of those teams that I think that they're, and this is not 2015. Steph is still very dynamic, but these guys are getting older. And so I think they still have the ability to, but like you see what I'm trying to, like, you see what, like a guy like Kobe, as he started to get older, like his game, like he was dominant, but his game continued to evolve. And so I think we're at that point where you're going to see guys like Steph and Klay and those dudes like start to evolve their game as they get a little bit older and say like, hey, it's okay for me. I don't have to carry us tonight because we have Andrew Wiggins and he's got the hot hand. And so, or hey,
right.
Kelly's going off tonight. I'm okay facilitating. I don't feel like I have to score 30 for us to win.
Right. Also today, the NBA came out with the first half of the schedule, and the one thing I noticed was, you talk about COVID and this upcoming season. COVID could knock out, 2, 3 guys, and then you got to dip into G League. So we don't really know what's going to happen. But just looking at the schedule, there's so many back-to-back matchups, not necessarily back-to-back on nights, just that you play the Lakers 2 straight games, you play Portland 2 straight games, you play, another team 2 straight, and then it's one, and then 2 more. I remember back when I played just recreational ball, how hard it is to beat a team 2 times in a row. Like I feel like everyone's going to be 500, but that's my first gut instinct I had today. Uh, what's your sense on that?
Well, I think it can go either way. I think you're going to see more of this roller coaster. I think we're seeing it with college sports right now. We're seeing it with college basketball where they're not playing back to backs yet. They're going to do it in their conference season, but we've seen a lot more upsets where it's like that team should have no business hanging here. And we have an upset. It happened. The women's college basketball #1 team lost again last night. And it's just like, you have all these things. If you're hot, everything's good. But if you're down, and you're struggling, I think it's really easy for you to sink to the bottom of that hill. I just think you're going to see. I mean, you could. It depends on too. You go back to back. So say you are the Warriors and you get the Clippers on a back to back, and you get the Clippers on a back to back, and let's say Kawhi and Paul George are out.
Right.
And so instead of
Yeah,
you
it's so random.
getting them once and then down the road, like that would be 2 huge games. And so what if you're the Phoenix Suns or you're a team that's in rebuilding mode and they go play the Clippers or the Lakers on a back-to-back, and LeBron and Anthony Davis are in quarantine, and so now the Suns steal 2 from, you know what I'm saying? That's
Right.
where
Yeah.
like this could be so goofy where
Yeah. It's a good way to put it. Goofy.
just yeah, you don't know what's gonna happen.
All right. I think we're on the 48-minute mark, and I can't say how much I appreciate you taking out the time. I just love, just talking hoops with
Yeah.
anybody. Really, I could go on and on. So I don't want to take up any more time. I'm going to let you go. You got a nice family to get back to, and a couple twins in the oven.
Yeah.
So gonna let you go right now, and just say thank you so much for all the incredible insights on Andrew Wiggins. We really made a lot of progress tonight. I can't thank you enough for that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. Uh, I'm a big Andrew Wiggins fan. I'm a bigger Andrew Wiggins fan of the person that he is, but I'm really, really
Yeah.
excited to see him be dynamic as a player because I think he's a really talented player, and I think Golden State fans are going to see something that I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised.
All right. Thanks a lot. Stay warm over there in Minnesota, and we'll catch you
I,
down the line.
awesome, appreciate it.
All right, guys. All right, everybody. We're gonna log off here and end the stream if I can figure out how to do that. Take care, Reid.
Hey, thanks.